have the #1 runaway bestseller as part of your homesteading library? Introducing the Food Forest Bible, How to Create a Food Forest, Sustainable, Self-Managing, Natural Food Production for Self-Sufficiency and Food Security. We all know the system is broken, but food, sovereignty, and survival are up to you. Will you comply or defy their plan for us all? You will own nothing, eat bugs, and be happy, or so the system says. Is this why America's largest food processing plants and food supply plants keep burning down? Do you really think this is a coincidence? Of course not. The system is telling us right to our faces what they have planned for us. You have a choice. Comply or simply defy their plan for us all. Defy the system's plan and execute your own plan. Abundant, safe, secure, natural food supply. Introducing the Food Forest Bible, this bestseller by Jovan Hutton Pulitzer is the single most complete, executable, easy-to-follow plan for sustainable, self-managing food production for self-sufficiency and food security. For the first time ever, a coffee table, heirloom quality, full-color book which unlocks the ancient secrets of creating a food forest. Imagine planting in a way which requires no digging, no pesticides, and creates massive ancient food abundance. No fooling. Food forests are the ancient secret to planning and planting once, and have your own Garden of Eden, which will feed your family for decade after decades. Buck the system. Buck the New World Order and order your very own copy of Jovan Hutton Pulitzer's Food Forest Bible. Learn how to create a sustainable, self-managing, natural food production for self-sufficiency and food security for your family. Side yard, small yard, backyard, backlot, or even lots of acres. The Food Forest Bible works for everyone. Order on Amazon, hardcover, or softcover. Buck the system. Don't comply. Expertly defy the system. Get your copy of the runaway bestseller, The Food Forest Bible, How to Create a Food Forest, Sustainable, Self-Managing, Natural Food Production for Self-Sufficiency and Food Security. Now.
Hey guys, welcome to the program. Hey, speaking of bestsellers, we're going to put a bestseller on. This is a brand new bestseller that's breaking the best-selling tab, meaning it's going right to the top in all the categories it's in. It's with my great fan who I adore, my great friend Mel K. You're going to want to pay attention. And so I'm going to get right to it. But by the way, just so you know, today's program is brought to you by the fine folks at Goldco. You're going to want to take notes during this broadcast anyway. You might as well go get your pen and paper. When Mel comes on, I'm telling you, she's going to use your whole notepad for notes, and you're going to use it to push those liberals and deep staters back. But here's what I'm asking you to do to get started. Just go to jovanlovesgold.com. You can either do it now, you can write it down. All I'm asking you to do is to request your free gold and silver kit today, because now is the time to protect your money with gold and silver. Folks, you need to do it, and you need to move quick. Now, a little bit of context as we head into this. We're not out of the woods when it comes to the midterms. And when you think about the fact that they've added 7+ million votes to Kamala since the election. 7 million, folks. I wonder, did the machines keep running for 18 months? No, they do it. It's all done in the background, voter rolls and everything else, folks. We're going to be in trouble. Part of this con, which is why I'm so glad Mel's on with us today, is, and I've shown you this before. You've seen this video. This video is from Obama's time through right at 2024 of the illegals. Every black dot, how ironic, is invading the country is 100 people in a line. So the black dot's not an individual. Black dot's 100 individuals. That is the infestation of the UK. What you need to know is this is almost equal to the amount that the Biden administration allowed through our borders in his singular term. Folks, you've got to understand the system has been planning what's going on for a very long time. It's about bringing down our country. It's a cancer. It's from the inside. And that's why literally you can even see in the retelling of a history, like the Odyssey, now going, well, should we say DEI? Not dying in the Odyssey. Well, here, let me give you a taste.
King Xerxes offers his respect, Mom. All he asks is that Sparta kneels a simple bow and your people will be spared.
Don't call me ma'am.
My apologies, miss. Xerxes is generous. He only wants your loyalty. Surely even a delicate thing like yourself can understand that.
I said don't fucking misgender me!
Ma'am, calm down. No need to get emotional.
It is sir!
Yeah, pop. Yeah, that DEI stuff's not going to work, but they're rewriting history. So get ready, folks. You got a book here that's going to give you the history. It's going to tell you like it is. It might piss you off. It might make you angry, but I guarantee you it's the truth. So hang tight. Share this program right now. Let's get started right after this.
Rennie Good was a gifted soul, a writer and a poet and a mother, wow. She tried to hit an agent with her car, oh no! Pop, motherfucker, now she's gone! Yeah! Being a fucking liberal is a mental disease. Blue-haired fuckables with the septum ring. You are not a hero, you're a fucking disease! You fuck around and find out it's what it is! Jeffrey Pretty was a Jewish homo. Started talking shit to protect a chomo. He was getting nicked when he pulled a gun. Bam, motherfucker, now you're gone! Being a fucking liberal is a mental disease. Blue-haired fuckables with a septum ring. You are not a hero, you're a fucking disease. Fuck around and find out what that is.
Warning. The following program has been rated Dilligaff and is intended for open-minded audiences. If the truth offends you, or if you are allergic to focused intensity, intellectual athleticism, or the occasional F-bomb or even irreverent humor, please switch off now. If your delicate sensibilities need to be worried about or addressed, might we recommend the Underwater Basket Weaving channel to you. Otherwise, sit back, enjoy the wisdom, insight, and wicked sense of humor.
Cut the crap. How many times a day do you want to say that to politicians, the elite, the loony liberals, the fake news media, and the gender-confused emotional socialist snowflake crowd? Cut the crap is your secret weapon for fighting for our freedoms and our great republic. It all begins with a massive mental enema, freeing you from the toxic news and politically correct views, which constipate your consciousness with stinking thinking. Your host, Jovan Hutton Pulitzer. He's known for calling out politicians and telling them to cut the crap. You've seen him on virtually every television network and listened to him on Coast to Coast Radio. And now he's here to help you learn to fight for America. Culture, race, and American politics. They all have one thing in common. They all need to cut the crap. Now, here's your host, Jovan Hutton Pulitzer.
Okay, guys, here we go. We're going to hop off right into the middle of this crap, and we're going to talk to the Queen Killer Bee. Yep. I tell you, look, and I say this with all affection, and I mean it. This is Wonder Woman in our modern time, that basically doesn't take any crap, does her work, only cares about America, right? And getting it right, and in fixing this. And of course, that's the wonderful Mel K, someone who I am so proud to call a great friend. Welcome to the program. How you doing?
Well, I'm excited to be with you. Yes, we are very close friends in real life. It has been one of the joys of this journey.
It has been. You're my refuge, my ability to take a breath in the middle of this, and many times.
Yeah, and then when you come here and we take a breath, I really enjoy it. And then we go back and we continue to fight, and that's because there's something worth fighting for. And I think a lot of people are forgetting that.
Absolutely. Let's talk about book number one. Just real quick, I want to remind people you've got this book out here, Americans Anonymous. Give them a quick synopsis real quick.
Well, a long time ago in my 20s, I went through a recovery program, which was a 12-step program. And I realized how much it helped me, especially in terms of identifying what was wrong, that it was me that was the problem, and that me was also the solution. And after we were touring the country, you and me, for years, especially during the COVID, and I just realized that our country seemed to be hitting rock bottom, at least the citizens of America were. They felt no longer that they had power or influence, that the government was no longer working. And it was depressing. And people were coming up to me at events and like with tears in their eyes, what can I do? And I just thought, you know what? America needs a recovery program.
There you go.
I took the 12 steps and I transformed them into 12 steps for the American citizen that is addicted to conflict and chaos by design, how to unravel your brain from that, and how to refocus on changing America one citizen at a time and taking back your power. And the most important thing in that book, to me, and also in recovery itself with me, was the thing that is often said in recovery rooms, that you are as sick as your secrets. And I believe that, and I say this in the book, that America was as sick as its secrets. And until we got honest about the history we do not know, we would not really know what happened. So that led me to the journey on my second book.
This book. Yes. I love it, right? That's why I did this incredible killer here, right?
I love it.
Pick it. Infiltration, invasion. Look, let's talk about it. Give a synopsis first, and then I want to dive into it.
Okay, so infiltration instead of invasion. America betrayed 1944, 1954. I chose to call it that because on my tour for the last 3.5 years, and I know it by heart, I often start off with the part of JFK's 1961 speech where he talks to the press. And he says that the press is waiting for him to announce that there is clear and present danger. And he says there has never been more clear or more present danger in America. And he goes on and talks about a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy in which he says there's infiltration instead of invasion, subversion instead of elections, guerrillas by night instead of armies by day, and that they conscript vast resources of intelligence, military, politics, industry, as a tight-knit group that is a true and clear and present danger to the United States. As you know, that was 1961. 2 years later, he was murdered in front of the world by design. And I wanted to dig into exactly what he meant. Because for many years, it was like, oh, he's talking about the communists. But I never thought he was. I thought he was talking about exactly what I found. And I went and I got the documents, and I kind of put myself in the position of why he was saying that day, where he was saying it, and what he was talking about. And my first book in this series that I'm going to do is Infiltration Instead of Invasion. And I pinpoint 1944 to 1954 as the years when the American people were completely and totally betrayed. And that architecture they built during those years is still functioning above our nation. And I believe is finally having a light shown on it. And luckily my book came out right now. So maybe people can go back and see what they were never told about our country by design.
You know, and I've said this before, I was naive about this crap. I didn't pay attention. I'm building companies. I'm doing stuff. I treated my freaking ballot like a lottery ticket. If I like somebody on the ballot at the presidential level of vote, the rest I didn't give a crap about. Until, of course, with my technology stuff, I get drafted in to do this audit, full forensic audit. And
Right.
I realized the most horrible nightmare I ever realized, that I thought this global cabal, honestly, was bullcrap. I thought people can't work that well together. People don't like each other. There's always personalities and infighting. And I suspected things, but I never really thought it was true until I find out that somebody like a Maricopa County Recorder has more power than the President of the United States. Just in all honesty, and I consider myself, I was on the dumbed down side. When did you figure out that that we were all being puppets? Really? When did it really hit you?
Well, I have a very, he's 89, my dad, but I have a very interesting dad that never treated me like a child. I was born many years after my siblings, and I spent a lot of time with my dad, and it would always be like Rush Limbaugh on or whatever. My dad's a real like history buff. Like we went to all the history sites. And my dad was just very honest from the very beginning about that World War II, the whole world changed. And I always kind of got the feeling that my dad was saying that the Nazis didn't lose, and I would always think he would never really explain that. But he one time told me when I was growing up in Jersey, he goes, "Oh, in that next town, there's a whole Nazi burial ground." And I'm like, "In New Jersey?" And he's like, "Oh, yeah, So I kind of always thought something wasn't right, about what was going on. He desperately hated the Clintons and then, and everything. And then the wars. So I always was kind of curious. And then I think when I was in college, I went to NYU and I first read Eichmann in Jerusalem, and then The Origins of Totalitarianism, both Hannah Arendt. And I got really obsessed with Hannah Arendt, and I read everything she wrote. And then I wrote a screenplay about her Eichmann times. And that's when I kind of realized that somebody else was controlling the narrative of the stories. And if you went against the narrative like she did, they would destroy your life. And so, it just was like a slow unraveling. And being so obsessed and writing that book, I kind of knew the signs of, or at least I learned or tried to learn of infiltrate, like I say in the book, but of there being a government above the government. There was somebody that was controlling the information. And so I read a lot of books, but it really wasn't until COVID that I had already known enough about, because I had already written about the Federal Reserve, and I knew that something was wrong there. And I knew about, and I had done, shows on, obviously a long time ago, 2008, 2009, on the Epstein stuff and all of that. But finally, I just realized one day, oh my God, we're fighting ourselves. And that was really in the realization that Ukraine was never was taken over long before the USSR fell, and that everything about Ukraine was a lie, everything. And that's when I really started digging into, okay, what are we dealing with here? And all roads led me to Switzerland during World War II and the Dulles brothers.
Okay, so you said this is going to be episodic, but I think you said you start in 54.
No, I start in 44.
44. Okay, let's start there.
Yeah.
And by the way, how many do you think it'll be episodic for you to tell this historical?
I'm going to do the 4 things that JFK said. So I'm defining here what infiltration instead of invasion means exactly, with real documents. Everything is documented. I'm going to have a whole thing on my website. Anyone can download the dozens and dozens of documents that I got. And then second, I'm going to go through his list. Subversion instead of elections. Guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. And then there's one more, and I think I'm going to just do the 4. But I already started subversion because I can't stop.
So let's start in 44. Where specifically on your journey in the book are we starting in 1944?
Bern, Switzerland. Bern, Switzerland. A lot of people may or may not have heard of Adam Labor's book, The Tower of Basel, which is about the Bank of International Settlements. And I did. And I, because I have for a long time been doing things about the Federal Reserve and connecting it to that. But when I started digging in for this and what was going on in the later years of World War II, I realized that Alan Dulles was based in Bern, Switzerland during World War II, running the OSS. Now, Alan Dulles and his brother, John Foster Dulles, were partners in a law firm on Wall Street. They were Wall Street lawyers from Sullivan and Cromwell. And I'm digging into the Dulles brothers. I read The Devil's Chessboard, and and what I found was Switzerland was not neutral during the war. They said it was neutral. What was going on in Switzerland was that the global financial architecture, the global financial system that connects to the global public-private partnership and multinational and NGO system was being built during that. So the money flows between the allies and the enemies never stopped. Nothing changed in the banking system in the Bank of International Settlements, and they were all involved. And what I realized that disturbed me the most was that the Bank of International Settlements, which was essentially the clearinghouse for the 60 million people that were murdered and pillaged and their wealth stolen in Europe, most of that money was making its way into the opaque Bank of International Settlements from Nazi Germany and then being transferred all over the world. So nothing was stopped. And then when I looked into who was running the Bank of International Settlements, I'll get into when it started in a second. The head guy was another Wall Street lawyer named McKittrick. So the head of the Bank of International Settlements is this guy McKittrick. The person that is protecting essentially the architecture of the international banking system is Alan Dulles, and his brother, who works for Sullivan and Cromwell, is essentially drawing up the international architecture legal framework for a global governance model above nations that would have continuity forever, regardless of who won elections or who lost or won wars. They weren't concerned. And the scariest part about this is what bothered me the most is the creation of the Bank of International Settlements was created after World War I, which I believe was also as Smedley Butler said, war's a racket. All wars are bankers' wars. He's obviously the American generals is saying this after the war. Well, there was like a few different groups, Dawes and Young and the bankers at the time, but Wall Street lawyers and Wall Street bankers pretty much decided that they were going to, with the Bank of England, that they were going to open a bank called the Bank of International Settlements for reparations to Europe after World War I.
The nice little word being used and cover again, reparations, and basically it was death funding global destruction.
Yeah, I mean, because the bank of the reparations bank, of course, the same people that built that bank essentially started rearming Germany. I mean, through that bank. So, what we're dealing with here at that time, the Bank of International Settlements after World War I, was we had a very, I think, looking back, Standard Oil of New Jersey, which is the Rockefeller family, had a very in-depth relationship with IG Farben, which was, people have to understand, COVID is not the first time the military and pharmaceutical firms are connected. They have never been disconnected. Military and pharmaceuticals, oil, they're always been connected, particularly during World War I. But what was going on during that time was that Alan Foster Dulles was the lawyer in America that was negotiating deals like that, like the partnership between Rockefeller Standard Oil of New Jersey and IG Farben's basically the entire world's pharmaceutical company being partners in creating synthetic rubber and making sure that the patents were separated between IG Farben and the Rockefellers so that they were working together. Well, there were other things going on at the same time that Sullivan and Cromwell were working on internationally, which included IBM, which included Ford, which included all these companies that were essentially putting money into Germany to rebuild the military of Germany that they were supposed to be dismantling and putting out reparations for. No, this started to become rebuilding Germany's industrial strength with partnerships created by Wall Street lawyers while our men and women, men particularly, and children are dying for a nation that we fought a revolutionary war against to be independent from. And I'm telling you, nothing is stopping. They are rebuilding Hitler's military in tandem. And when you go a little bit deeper into that, then you realize that they were doing it in a way that they were saying, never again will a nation or a president or a king even have a say over the international financial system and how it works, which is, of course, attached to endless military and wars for profit, because the profit from wars is not made during the wars. The profit from wars is made in the reconstruction. And they did the model in World War I. They then came out with their world order, the League of Nations, America. It was a clear world government. America rejected it, and they went back to business. And then came World War II. And as we know, after World War II, they weren't going to let it happen again. And what they created, particularly in 1944, is the year that I really pinpoint, when the global architecture that runs above all of our nations to this day, this global public-private partnership that is attached to the endless military-industrial complex spending and is really controlled by the international banking cartel, was not only created, but created and protected by multiple different things that were done. And in every one of those cases, Allen Dulles and John Foster Dulles were the principals in creating it. And then in 1953, the two of them walked into the two highest positions underneath the President of the United States, Secretary of State, and head of the CIA. And our country from that day forward was no more.
Wow.
What happened at that time was that they put into action the State Department being a tentacle of the global international banking cartel, multinational global public-private partnership that runs above all nations to this day. And from that point on, I believe that I think the CIA and the Five Eyes Agreement was about protecting the international banking cartel. And I believe that when they went into the State Department, John Foster Dulles and Allen Dulles and a couple other people, there were a bunch of people, McCloy, there's other players. They turned the State Department of the United States of America into a tentacle of that global partnership. And from that point on, trillions of U.S. taxpayer dollars went into the State Department through USAID and into capturing the world, I believe, for a third world war on the soil of Europe, they would use Ukraine as the hub. Again, the Third Reich wanted to get rid of Russia and then have a united Europe that ran the world between Geneva and Brussels, with essentially the city of London being the banking part and the United States being the military. I mean, that's what it looks like they were creating, and never knowing in the United States that we were the military for them, not for what we were being told. And so it's my belief in 1953 that the State Department was turned into essentially its own institution that was for profit using U.S. taxpayer money. And it exists, I think, to this day.
And you're saying this is in full swing operation right now. If 100, on a scale from 1 to 100, if 100 is saturated and no chance of return, and it's fully operational, and 1 is it's done and gone, we're in a new world, where are we in this scale?
Well, where we are is that now we have to really understand that I don't believe the CIA ever worked for the United States of America. I frankly believe both Dulles brothers were on the side of the Nazis. If you look at their meetings and who they dealt with and what they did, none of the Ukraine Nazis, as you know, where the SS really was headquartered, ever were tried in Nuremberg or held accountable. In fact, they flourished. That was because of Allen Dulles. Galen, who was the head of Hitler's Nazis intelligence, was pulled in by Alan Dulles to run West Germany intelligence against Russia. Now, you have to remember, Russia was our ally against the Nazis. And then suddenly they're not our ally. And communism is our enemy. Again, they use the communism as our enemy the same way they used terror was our enemy. It's not defined. And they turned immediately. I'm not saying Stalin and Lenin were good guys, but I am saying that suddenly our whole war justified teaming up with the Nazis. So
it was just another squirrel to chase to get them to their ends.
To keep keep the architecture flowing with cash. So really what I believe is that I believe the CIA, everything that Truman put in, which he regretted in his death, as JFK and anyone else that is Eisenhower, the CIA never worked for the United States. It worked to protect this international architecture from the United States, from us, the people of the United States. So where are we now? The CIA, the National Security Council, and the tentacles of that, USAID, National Endowment for Democracy, and the State Department since 1953 until, I believe, 2024, 2025, has been a globalist entity, slowly moving the United States towards the acceptance of global governance, because a lot of the people checked out. And then when Barack Obama, who was put in there, I believe, by Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid, if you really look at what happened there and how he even got in to the Senate seat, was also a dirty trick.
Yeah, it was all hot swapping the whole time. Here, put this person in.
Right. And remember, his whole background is hidden, but it goes straight to the CIA, Barack Obama. But so here's the thing, though. What has happened is that the CIA has gone unchecked, with no oversight, with no accountability, by design. This was put in a clause that was put in by Truman. He later, when he was like dying, told everyone that he regretted it, that if he knew the CIA was going to become the American Gestapo, which is what he said, he never would have signed it. He felt deceived by Alan Dulles. I know a lot of people talk about Wild Bill Donovan. No. Donovan created what Truman thought he was signing on to, which was a global intelligence gathering operation. Alan Dulles and his brother created a protection operation and pulled in the other banking sectors in the Five Eyes nations along with them. And to me, I believe both Bushes, Obama, Clinton, and Biden are all aware of this. And when Barack Obama signed the United States onto Agenda
Not just aware, they're facilitators.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. And it's the secretaries of state that we have to look at. The secretaries of state, they knew. And one of the bad ones was Madeleine Albright. A terrible person. But what I'm going to tell, and of course we were told, Kissinger,
which stands to reason why Hillary, who thought she was destined to be president, had no problem taking that position.
No, it was a bargain. She got to do pay or play and raise money while she was selling weapons to Saudi Arabia to get them to put money in the Clinton Foundation,
and had cover and less scrutiny than being president.
Right, because the State Department is a global public-private partnership of an international banking cartel that runs on war for profit. And the biggest part that they have to do is convince the American people to support these wars, which is what the CIA has done for decades. And at this point, when you ask me where we are, I think the American people need a full accounting of every CIA agent that is in an elected position, anyone that was trained by the CIA, anyone trained by the CIA.
Like Spanberger, who's now governor of Georgia, and others.
Yes. And Slotkin, who is now a senator in Michigan. The Spanberger running Virginia right now is a total protection racket of all of the criminals that are based in Virginia.
Right.
Okay. And I saw it right away. But we need to know every single celebrity, sports figure, and media person that went through CIA training. Because I have a feeling that MSNBC, CNN are not and never have been news organizations.
You know, you're bang on right there, because one of the things I noticed, and I'll remind people, when we were going back at Trump's 100 days, and I asked, what would you do? My first guess on that was Mel. And Mel said, get rid of USAID. That's where the money comes from. And what do we find out? Boom. Elon's in there. President starts getting rid of it. if you noticed, as soon as those monies got cut, you notice people like Joy Reid and other broadcasters, poof, they're off the air.
Right.
I do believe those were all fronts and not real ever.
And let me give you something else to know about that. In 1991, the George Soros Open Society went into a deal to partner with USAID to create NGOs all over the world. And what did they do with those NGOs? They did regime change operations for any country that did not want to join the EU. And who paid for the EU? We did. With the fake, fraudulent German Marshall Fund, we rebuilt Europe with US taxpayer dollars. And believe me, it didn't end there. Every regime change, all that money that went through USAID is US taxpayer money. And when that ended, they started the war on terror to keep the money flowing. And I have no doubt that this is known to these people, and I believe it's known to Donald Trump. And the reason that I think we are in a place—
Now, when you say you believe it's known to Donald Trump, how do you mean that? Because that could go one of two ways.
Right. How I mean it is this. The only time this group has ever been even questioned, and I'm not talking about the people, I'm talking about the architecture, right, was in the panic of 2016, when Donald Trump still believed that if he became president and he went into office, that would be accepted. I really do believe that he believed that. And what did we see? What do we see now looking back? We see Pompeo, we see Barr. These are CIA operatives. We see other people. He never had a chance because they planned during the transition, like all of the stuff that people think, Russiagate and everything that happened. It is because I have, and people will read it in the book, I firmly believe World War III was planned before the end of World War II. And that they were going along this model now, you know, and your audience probably knows, at the end of the USSR, Gorbachev and Reagan made a deal, Baker signed on it, that they would stop NATO. So they would stop NATO. Now, why would NATO exist if the whole existence of NATO was to protect the world from the USSR? And the USSR has fallen and it's kind of a disaster. So why are they doing that? Well, then you find out that George Soros and the Open Society had already infiltrated Ukraine and everywhere else that he wanted, and that USAID was already funding over there. And here's the craziest part. In 1993, George Soros writes a document that is still on his website called, it's called the NATO World Order. And that document is not only about expanding NATO, but if people know what the Third Reich's goal was, it is essentially the same goal. Like destroying Russia, even though they just fell, and uniting all of Europe under one united Europe and running the world through Brussels and Geneva. The real world, and Soros is part of that global public-private partnership, international banking infrastructure, obviously. But when he wrote that document, it was only a few months later that Bill Clinton, against the agreement with Gorbachev that ended the war, bombed Yugoslavia. Now, what you need to know about the bombing of Yugoslavia, and I can go back to, and I will in a second, the bombing of Yugoslavia, they accidentally hit the Chinese embassy in Yugoslavia. And you know what? As an apology, Clinton led China into the World Trade Organization. I'm telling you, these people, and remember, he went to...
And that was the cover. That was the plan, to create the excuse, oh, we did bad, so let's make up.
Yeah. Yes.
Interesting.
And I will tell you this, if you've read it, and it's hard to read because it's very thick, but Bill Clinton's mentor at the very corrupt Georgetown Law School, it was this guy, Carol Quigley, who wrote Tragedy and Hope. And I'm telling you, he lays out the entire infrastructure in that book, all the way to the BIS and what happened. But he's for it, the guy.
Right.
So, Clinton was for it. Hillary was even more for it. And again, what this comes with also is global socialism. This isn't like it's like, no, Rockefeller was was the conduit in America. Like people say the Rothschild. No. The Rothschilds weren't here. It was the Rockefellers and JP Morgan and Standard Oil and the Rockefellers taking over the education system and the
Medical
schools.
system and
Right.
pharmacology and everything to do with it. Every anchor system at the time.
Right. And people should know the Reese Commission looked into, in the 30s, the Ford Foundation, Carnegie Institute, and Rockefeller Foundations as subverting the will of the people. There was a huge thing about it, and that got smashed. Anytime anyone wanted to look at this, because the NGOs are a big part of the model, i.e. USAID. So, you know, what we need to understand is that at that point, Bill Clinton started, don't forget, he did that thing with opening up China by accident. Right around the same time they started the fake global warming, carbon is a problem in Rio, the same year. And there was an unknown community organizer who happened to be in Rio named Barack Obama that nobody ever mentions that what was he doing there? And what was he doing in his years between Occidental College and supposedly Columbia and then Harvard Law? I mean, there's a lot there with him, and that's a whole nother story. But talking about my decade, when you go back and you look at how this played out, it is the same model now that we see at the World Economic Forum and at Bilderberg and at the COP conferences. That is what they built. Now, Jovan, I'm going to tell you something that this should make everyone in America like gasp for air, because it was so shocking that I had to go look at the real document. I had to call somebody and ask him. I had to call somebody else and ask him. I had to ask a dude in Germany. What they did, and this is the thing, what they did in 1944, 1945, they had a meeting in 44 before Hitler surrendered, okay? All the bankers were there. I'm talking the Reich Bank, Himmler was there. All the Nazi bankers were there. All the bankers from essentially the City of London, Montague Norman, and the rest of the City of London bankers, the U.S. bankers, and were involved. This was in France. And they all met, the people that were involved in creating the supranational architecture, and they were figuring out a way to get all the money out of Germany before Hitler surrendered. And they did it through the Bank of International Settlements, from what I found. And they also did it by opening subsidiaries of the German companies that were complicit, including IG Farben, Krupp, the steel company, some of the automobile manufacturers. They opened subsidiaries in the United States and funneled money out through Italy and the Vatican, and also through the Bank of International Settlements into Argentina, where Perón was an ally of the Nazis. I believe the Dulles brothers were allies of the Nazis too. And they started opening subsidiaries in America of these German companies. And then when IG Farben, 10 executives from IG Farben were charged in Nuremberg. And that's because IG Farben had a plant at Auschwitz where they created with the Rockefeller money synthetic rubber for the war, and worked 100,000 men to death at that camp. And IG Farben, 10 executives were charged, and the United States military got them out and gave them new lives. And it wasn't just those guys; it was other industrial manufacturers of Hitler's war. And subsidiaries were here. And I'm talking like Krupp, Volkswagen, I mean, a lot. And then the other side
names
of that,
everybody would know.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And then the craziest part is, so that 44, 45 period, this is the craziest thing, because I cannot believe that it's still going on. And it is. They gave this Bank of International Settlements and 63 central banks connected to the Bank of International Settlements full and complete immunity from audit, prosecution, investigation of them and their grounds, their building. Like, no, there is zero jurisdiction, even in Switzerland, of the Bank of International Settlements. And then all of their 63 connected banks also got it. And then this is also 44, 45. They give the United Nations, which is coming into its own a little later, international immunity and 76 tentacles of the United Nations. So what we are talking about is that 76 United Nations attached international organizations and 63 banking organizations attached to the Bank of International Settlements in the International Organization Act of 1945 got full and total complete immunity, including their headquarters, even on the soil of the United States of America. In America, the United States has zero jurisdiction legally or otherwise to investigate any of these entities. And I'm talking the IMF and World Bank are in Washington, D.C. They are still protected with full immunity from investigation, audit, or even looking at their premises to this day. And there are hundreds of them on U.S. soil that have inviolability, which means the United States has zero jurisdiction to oversee anything. It's much more than diplomatic immunity for just these groups. And of course, if they bring in something like Gavi in turn then gets the immunity. World Health Organization has it. The IMF has it. The World Bank. They are in New York. They are in DC.
That's part of the inducement to join is you're getting the free get out of jail card pass with it.
And not just that, they pay no property taxes to America on our soil. They pay no taxes at all. And most of their employees pay no taxes. All of these international organizations on our soil, totally protected, no U.S. jurisdiction to investigate, and no tax liability on our soil. So infiltration instead of invasion, well, that's just one big piece, but it's big because not one president since 1953, when those guys went in there that created it, has said a damn word to the American people or brought it up. They might not even know. That is how pathetic it is. But we have entities on our soil that the U.S. has no jurisdiction over. So think about the battle Donald Trump's fighting. You know?
So obviously, folks, I mean, we're with the wonderful Mel K. And as you know, she brings the goods, and we're talking about her new book, which it's a bestseller across all categories, and you can see why. And she's only scratched the tip of the iceberg.
I'm only in the first chapter.
Are we extractable in any form, though it will be long and hard? Are we extractable from this? And I'm going to go back to I told you on the Trump question to go one or two ways. He knows it, but is he doing anything about it? Is it too big for even him? Where are we?
This is my firm belief, and I might be wrong, but I don't think I am, but I might be wrong. So what has happened is that they've gotten very sloppy, and I mean the CIA, because that's the tentacle that is deepest in our country and most dangerous to Donald Trump. He was surrounded by CIA in his first term. I firmly believe the COVID will come back to the CIA. The 2020 election will come back to the CIA. The entire lawfare. Definitely, it's already proven the Ukraine thing was a CIA operation. Eric Cimarelli.
This is why I laugh at Venezuela and CIA whistleblower is going to tell you what happened. I just laugh over it. But anyway, go ahead.
No, I know you laugh over it, but what I want to tell you is what we need to know is the history of the Dulles brothers regime change operations to understand, I think, what Trump is doing.
But can we get out of this?
Yes, I think we can, but we're not going to get out of this unless the American people are fully aware of that we are captured and who we are captured by and why we've had endless wars for profit and where, essentially $21 trillion of U.S. taxpayer money has gone since the end of World War II.
Okay, well, quick question. Hang on. I'm going to divert for a minute. Is Iran part of this crap we're going through right now?
Yes, 1,000%.
All BS?
No. Do you want me to tell you the first regime change overthrow the Dulles brothers pulled in 1953?
Go.
It was called Operation Ajax, and it was an overthrow in Iran, and it was about BP Oil, who was a client of both Dulles brothers at Sullivan and Cromwell. The second one was in Guatemala a year later, and it was an overthrow of the Guatemalan government because a client of Sullivan and Cromwell, United Fruit, did not like what they were doing. And this is how it keeps going. War after war after war. Show me the war, I'll show you the client. And this is what was going on. Sullivan and Cromwell is a big one. That was their law firm, but there was also Schrader Bank, which was the German bank, Schrader Bank. They had one in America. Alan Dulles sat on the board of Schrader Bank during the war. That was the main bank that was facilitating a lot of this and hosted Hitler and helped him rise in 1933, Schrader Bank. And Alan Dulles was on the board. Alan Dulles was on the board while he was at the OSS of this bank, and while his brother's running Sullivan and Cromwell and coming up with the immunity for all of these organizations. Okay, so Wall Street lawyers. And what are we still dealing with now that's running the operations against Trump? Lawyers. And these are lawyers of international organizations, and places like Brookings are paying for them. Rockefeller, Carnegie, Ford, the same ones that were involved in the 30s are still funding the lawyers that are manipulating the law to keep power. And here's the bottom line about Trump. Okay, so they didn't think Trump was going to win. But what I will tell you is there is a group called the SteadyState.org, and they admit it. There are 400 former CIA operatives that did regime change for decades in Europe. They came out of the woodwork when Trump won in 2016, and they admit it. And they started working because Trump was an existential threat that he was not going to, before he took office, that he was not going to be able to be president because they already had plans for the next 20 years. They already had the plan for World War III using Ukraine. They had been arming and protecting. And in 2014, the United States under Obama took over the entire judicial system, the entire military, the entire intelligence, the entire, now we know, because Tulsi Gabbard is looking into the 40 bioweapons labs in Ukraine. NATO and Obama and the international banking cartel took over Ukraine long ago. Okay, so the war in Ukraine is not about protecting Ukraine. It is because they plan. So CIA, that's their baby, and they admit it. They see that Donald Trump wants to normalize relations with Putin in 2016.
Right.
They were so worried about the Kislyak call. Why? And then they had to create this operation where they made Donald Trump's win look like Russia's fault. And then the greatest psyop of all time, probably, Colonel Aquino, the Satanist that ran the World War II mind control and that absorbed MK Ultra from the Nazis, could not have hoped for a better psyop than the Trump is the problem psyop. Trump is the Hitler. Well, these guys admit, and they've admitted it in conferences about authoritarianism and all this BS, that Trump was an existential threat to the system that they created from World War II forward. And that system had a third world war on the continent of Europe planned because the money is made in the Reconstruction. The Reconstruction was going to lead to a solution. The solution was going to be Agenda 2030. And Donald Trump came in and it threw off their timeline for World War III on Europe's soil. They're still pushing towards that because the EU put trillions of dollars into this. Obama signed the United States on in 2015 without telling anyone that it was a nation state-ended global governance plan that was already built. And this is what happened. The war on Donald Trump was a Five Eyes war, a global overthrow of the duly elected president of the United States of America because he was going to go in a different direction and start to normalize relations with Russia and other countries that they did not want. And so what did they do? They ran a shadow foreign policy for the 4 years Donald Trump was in office, keeping him tied up in legal bullshit called West Exec Advisors. That was all of Obama's top lines. These are the people that the CIA's other half, the National Security Council, also created by Truman that he regretted, was working. And that's where, remember, Donald Trump got rid of Kissinger, Brzezinski, and what's her name, Madeleine Albright, in his first term right away. They were running it. They have been running it since the 40s. The same people were groomed to be there. So what happened was they all went into action, and the CIA started being very active on American soil. You know why? You know what he says, the main guy, Steve Cash? He says it was an existential threat. And as much as we don't like to get involved on American soil, we felt we had to. And he actually says, we all got together and sent a letter when Donald Trump picked General Flynn that Trump was an existential threat to foreign policy, that he could not do this. He was not qualified to be the president, and that they would have to step in. And the guy laughs and he says a few weeks later, Flynn was fired. And then we sent the same letter to McMaster and he ignored it. from that point on, we had to do what we had to do. Well, what they had to do was make sure that they got rid of Donald Trump. And guess what? For 2 years, they had a fake This is why we also need to know which of these lawyers and elected officials are CIA trained operatives. Particularly, I'd like to know about Adam Schiff, but also there's some media people like Nicole Wallace and other people that their through line is totally straight through. Jen Rubin from the Washington Post, Norm Eisen from Brookings, Mark Elias. Like, these are not normal operations. And don't forget that Hillary, Mark Elias, John Podesta, who's with Podesta is with Progressive International. Like, the Center for American Progress is actually a globalist organization that is backing Mamdani and the DSA in America, which is a socialist organization. And Progressive International is because the big part of this global architecture above nations is socialism. It's European socialism. That's why the EU is already that. The EU, if people don't realize that the EU is already the Fourth Reich, they just didn't get rid of Russia, and that they still want World War III. This is why Donald Trump has to, in my opinion, not only needs to rescind that International Organization Immunity Act, which the president can do alone. He might not even know, but he should rescind that, especially on our soil. At the same time, obviously, I don't know why they haven't reversed the Smith Modernization Act, but I think
me too.
I think that we need a full account of not only the steady state being held accountable, but the 51 intelligence agents that conspired to defraud the American people before an election, knowing that Hunter Biden's laptop was real. You have Norm Eisen on a podcast saying this out loud. You and I did the facts first memo. Okay. So this was a plan. But what I'm telling you is there is a continuity of this international law firms, international intelligence, international banks that has been running a continuity of government above nations since 1944. The same model, the same thing to this day. The NGOs are part of it. And that's what we're dealing with. That's why I believe, because I don't think this is a gigantic group of people. I think probably 20,000 people on the global stage. And I'm talking the lawyers involved, the intelligence people involved, the ambassadors involved, the politicians involved, and a lot of them are in senior executive service in non-firing positions, which, as Hannah Arendt would call it, a dictatorship through bureaucracy. They created that on purpose. And you brought up FDR earlier. Well, now I think we should look into the murder of FDR, because it looks like maybe he was taken out by them. But whatever the case may be, these people are spooks. They are trained to lie, cheat, steal, assassinate, overthrow, infiltrate, manipulate. And look at the operations that have gone on since Hillary Clinton and her friends worked with MI6 and Steele and Halper, and of course Gina Haspel, CIA, running the London office in tandem with Comey and Brennan and Strzok in America. They ran a global operation to overthrow the duly elected president in the United States, and it didn't work. So then they go for the Ukraine point, because they are scared now, because they have set up Ukraine to be the hub of World War III, and they know it. And Ukraine is not controlled by Ukraine. It's been controlled by the CIA and the International Banking Cartel since 2009, but really doubled down with McCain and everyone in the Maidan, very bloody, very evil Maidan revolution. Well,
that's why I think people should connect how many of our politicians of questionable backgrounds have kids and companies there and everything else. It's protecting that interest that got built to destroy us. Man, we could just keep on going on.
I know. We'll do it again. But what I want people to know, and I didn't answer your question. Do I believe that Donald Trump can dismantle this alone? No. Do I believe that if the American people fully understand that our parents and grandparents died on battlefields around the world for profit, for those that have looted us of trillions of dollars of our money since the 40s to date, certainly since 1953, and the State Department, USAID, CIA, and National Endowment for Democracy has the scab picked off, and we decide we are as sick as our secrets and we want to know the truth regardless. And the American people realized, whether it was the crack epidemic in the inner city or the hijacking of education and history, or the Nazis, tens of thousands of Nazis, not a few, not just Operation Paperclip. That's just the scientists. We're talking about academics. We're talking about media. We're talking about Hollywood. We're talking about NGOs. We're talking about corporations. This country was infiltrated. If the American people could understand that we are all on the same side, and that the enemy is actually not a nation, but an architecture, and that all of the places Trump has gone to already had very deep CIA architecture in them. Venezuela, Haiti, Cuba, Iran. Iran was the first overthrow by the Dulles brothers and the CIA. What I am telling you is that this is, go look at Libya again with clean eyes. You know what I mean? So this is what we are dealing with. I believe the American people being fully informed, we will lose probably 20% that have uncurable Trump derangement syndrome and COVID brain. But I think the rest of the people, particularly if they lost parents, grandparents, or great-grandparents in World War II, will be furious. And I mean furious at the right people this time, because the reason Donald Trump is a target is not because of Donald Trump. It is because the architecture is being threatened, and it is global, and it was supposed to be Hillary Clinton. And Hillary Clinton, I believe, probably, at this point, I don't know if Hillary Clinton or Bill Clinton will ever be held accountable. But I, at this point, do believe that, I really do believe that Barack Obama and John Brennan and James Comey will be. And
I think we're close. I think there is potential.
I do too.
I do think.
But people have to understand, the war was never about Trump. It was that they had our future planned, and they don't believe in elections. This same group are the group that said in 1991 in a speech at the Council of Foreign Relations that obviously a intellectual elite class of bankers and of thinkers is preferable to run the world rather than elected officials of autodetermination of the past. They were done with the constitutional republic long, long ago. And like I said, I believe that they had a three-pronged, people look at Pike and his three world wars and that whole thing. I think this was a long game plan. Donald Trump wins in 2016. They do everything they can to destroy him, and he is still standing. And the only way that we, the people, take back our country is to accept that the truth needs to be told, no matter how ugly it is, and that our grandparents and children and great-grandparents that have died on the continent of Europe died for these bankers and billionaires to continue. And I don't mean billionaires in the bad sense. I mean the ones that run, the ones that Jeffrey Epstein worked with.
Right. Wow. What a great job. Wow. Just wow.
Yeah. I think the American people getting together and realizing the entire civil rights movement and the infiltration of the feminist movement and the entire takeover and rewriting of our education system and all of that is going to lead back to this exact group. All of it. Every operation on our soil. And in 2016, the CIA went full regime change, color revolution playbook that they've played out dozens of times in other countries on the United States of America. And for all of those countries that they overthrew, because they wanted to control their financial system and their banks and their resources, we, the people of the United States, owe them to acknowledge it here, call it out, and then call out all the other ones, because this is a playbook. And the top of this playbook is a very small group. Their NGOs are very obvious, and that's why they started with the USAID. And I believe that Tulsi Gabbard is the bravest person on planet Earth right now, because I think she's the one dismantling the CIA tentacles that have controlled this country and the world for far too long. And whatever may come, don't forget that Venezuela, Haiti, Cuba, Iran were essentially normal countries to a certain extent until the CIA showed up.
Infiltration. Okay, only on Amazon, people walking in, it's just Amazon, etc. Right?
Well, you can go to themelkshow.com. That's the best place to go. Amazon, because it just helps me fight the mainstream censorship. But anywhere, and then because I have real documents, and I'm talking about some of these documents, like I really had to work hard to get. and I only have them in PDF and stuff. I'm going to do a whole section. We're working on it now on the melkshow.com resource page for my book, where everyone can look at these documents and see for themselves that two brothers walked into the State Department and CIA in 1953, and America has not been free since. And we have actually been under a psychological, mental, emotional, and financial operation that none of us were ever told about by design. And it's time to tell history as it was, not as they would like us to believe.
Well, I sure appreciate you. I love you to death. And I am so glad that you did this and came on. And what did we do? We got through chapter 1 in the first paragraph of chapter 2, right?
Yeah, but I'd like to come back. I think we need to talk about exactly. Too many people don't know what MK Ultra is, and they think that it's something it's not. It's a very big program. It came from the Nazi. Yeah, it came from the Nazi concentration camps, and a lot of those people came here and unfortunately started teaching psychology and sociology in our universities. So a lot of the totalitarian people say, "Oh, Nazi this." It's totalitarianism, and the Dulles brothers and John McCloy and a lot of these people that participated in the 50s, post Eisenhower, post the murder of JFK, they did this on purpose to our country, and we should know about it.
Well, we'll have you back very, very soon, and we'll do it. I appreciate you. Thank you for being here, dear. There you go, folks. Mel K, talk about a warrior. Talk about somebody who brings the goods. And truly, we only got really through chapter 1. We're going to have to do more, folks. Make sure you share this program. I'm telling you, our future depends on it. I love you. Share this program.
Rennie Good was a gifted soul, a writer and a poet and a mother. Wow, she tried to hit an agent with her car. Oh no, pop motherfucker, now she's gone. Yeah. Being a fucking liberal is a mental disease. Blue-haired and fuckables with the septum ring. You are not a hero, you're a fucking disease. You fuck around and find out it's what it is. Jeffrey Pretty was a Jewish homo. Started talking shit to protect a chomo. He was getting nicked when he pulled a gun. Bam, motherfucker, now you're gone. Yeah. Being a fucking liberal is a mental disease. Blue-haired and fuckables with the septum ring. You are not a hero, you're a fucking disease. Fuck around and find out what that is.
Sehr gut. Sehr gut.
I'm a time traveler from the year 2025, and I've come here to kill you, Hitler.
Oh, not again. I'm never gonna have enough time to finish these paintings with all of these time travelers trying to kill me.
Well, I'm going to succeed.
Before you pull the trigger, can I just ask why? Why do all of you people want to kill me?
Isn't it obvious? I'm a progressive, a liberal, a fighter for social justice. And you are a fascist who implemented a reign of terror. And while the effects of your policies devastated the world for decades, soon we will be able to take back the White House, and we will be able to use the government to force people to follow our great ideas.
You want to use government power to force your ideas on the populace. Me too! That's fantastic!
What? No. Ugh. You and I have nothing in common. What I'm saying is there are people in our time with dangerous ideas, and we need to silence them.
Silencing those who disagree with you. I do that too! Oh, wunderbar! Oh, the Nazi movement will not die with me.
Don't give me that! I'm enlightened, and you're as bad as... well, as Hitler. Listen, What I'm trying to say is we are very close to implementing a utopia, as long as we can get rid of some certain undesirable people groups.
Yes, like the Jews.
Yes, like the Jews. Oh.
So, in the future,
Oh.
you also do not like the Jews?
Well, no. But we don't believe in segregating all the races like you do. I mean, except for, like, graduation ceremonies. In dorms. And hiring practices. Oh, and admissions policies. That sort of thing.
I, too, am a fan of the segregation. I'm sorry, I have to ask, is this a real firearm or is this some kind of toy for kinder?
It's a flare gun. I'm trying not to support America's toxic gun culture. I'm a firm believer in gun control.
Gun control! This was one of my ideas too. Ban them from the undesirables. Yes, look here. Oh, and your shirt. This is an organization founded by Margaret Sanger. Yes?
Wait, you know about Margaret Sanger?
Jawohl, of course. Oh, she's such a lovely person.
No. She's a fighter for reproductive rights, for women's empowerment,
And the eradication of undesirable populations by means of eugenics. Brilliant lady, very inspiring. I must use some of her ideas in our socialized healthcare system.
Socialized healthcare? That's not your thing. That's our thing.
No, it's very much my thing. Did you know that Nazi means National Socialist German Workers' Party? Nazi is just more catchy. Nazi. Just rolls off the tongue.
No. This can't be true. This has to be some sort of mistake. We are nothing alike. You're Adolf Hitler, evil right-wing fascist dictator, and I'm a feminist restorative justice advocate. And a vegetarian.
You're a vegetarian? Me too!
Okay, I am so confused right now. I came here with a clear goal in mind to kill the most evil man who I've ever lived. Besides Ronald Reagan. But now that I'm meeting you in person, you're not at all what I thought you were. And your painting is actually really good. What do you call it?
I call it Ein Reich ohne Juden.
Wow. I don't know what that means, but it sounds beautiful.
It does, doesn't it?
Not fixing 2020 will damn our nation forever. The historic Maricopa County full forensic audit effort processed 20,895,610 digital and forensic images of varying formats, resulted in 208 million individual evidence-proof files. The system processed over 58 billion forensic measurements, resulting in over 2 trillion individual base computations. No hopium, no hype, just hardcore forensic evidence. Please make sure the Maricopa County Full Forensic Audit Archives survive. Donate now. So if you want what happened in the 2020 election fixed, then please donate to protect and secure this historic evidence. We can't do it without you. We need you. America needs you. Our future needs you. Please